Hey everybody, I'm Jordan Garza and welcome back to Unredacted. So, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about basically what's going on with the Trump Mar-a-Lago raids and the FBI. And well, you saw the title. FBI and IRS are making some pretty serious moves, and I just want to kind of get into that. Now, on the off chance you don't watch, I'm sure if you watch my channel, you watch other political commentary, but on the off chance you don't, I'm just going to give a brief synopsis on what happened with the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago. And then, if you've already heard it, Potato will be providing a timestamp, get you up to speed on just the new stuff. But in case you haven't, for the people that haven't, we're just gonna go over it really quick, and we'll get on to what's going on that's new. The FBI executes a search warrant on Trump in Mar-a-Lago in document investigation. Now, this is basically a warrant they got basically to go into Mar-a-Lago, search the premises, and under the guise of they were looking for classified information that he had held over from when he was the president. Now, there's two issues with that thing just off the jump. The president has the supreme authority when it comes to declassifying and classifying information. The president can't go to and from countries negotiating foreign policy and nuclear deals if he cannot he's like, oh, I can't negotiate with you because I can't discuss our nuclear agreements or where our nuclear things are situated. He does have the final authority when it comes to declassifying information. So the fact that they're doing a raid on possibly classified information in the hands of the ex-president makes very little sense, because whatever he says is declassified. Now, if you look up the law, there actually is rules and regulations you're supposed to go through, but there's this really little word right at the beginning, supposed to. He actually does not have to. If he wants, he can, and it's declassified, and that's just it. But like I said, this is Donald Trump, and nothing goes over that smoothly, regardless of precedents or standing. On Monday morning, the FBI executed a raid on Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida, as part of the investigation into handling the presidential documents, including classified documents that may have been brought there. Three people familiar with the situation told CNN. The former president confirmed the FBI agents were at Mar-a-Lago and said they even broke into my safe. He was in the Trump Tower in New York when search warrant was executed in Florida. A person familiar told CNN. Why do they keep saying that? President Trump, my beautiful home Mar-a-Lago in Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents, Trump said in a statement Monday morning. The extraordinary move to search the home of a former president raises the stakes for the Justice Department and comes to Trump's legal problems continuing on multiple fronts. Trump is also expected to coming months to announce he will launch for another bid for the White House in 2024, and this hasn't actually been formally declared yet, but it's pretty just well understood that that's what's going to happen. The Justice Department has known to activate investigations connecting to the former president, one of the effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election, and the January 6, 2021, involving other handling of classified documents. And search began Monday morning, and law enforcement personnel appeared to be focused on the area of the club where Trump's offices and personal quarters are, according to personnel familiar with the matter. The FBI search included examining where documents were kept. According to another person familiar with the investigation, and boxes of items were taken. Following National Archives recovering the White House records from Mar-a-Lago in recent months, the FBI on Monday had to verify nothing was left behind. Trump's son Eric told Fox, Sean Hannity, and I have my issues with Mr. Sean Hannity, but he does actually do a pretty entertaining radio show. The purpose of the raid, from what they said, was because the National Archives wanted to, corroborate whether Donald Trump had any documents in his possession. Christina Bobb, Trump's attorney, said the FBI seized documents. President Trump and his legal team have been cooperative with the FBI and DOJ officials every step of the way. FBI did conduct an unannounced and raided seizure on the property, Bob said. Basically, they raided his home looking for what they deemed as classified documents, and I believe when they left, they ended up taking somewhere in the realm of like 11 to 12 boxes of evidence. Again, I don't understand how you can have classified documents as the president. Anything you deem as declassified is declassified. Fact check me if you want. Now, moving on to what's going on that's a little bit more new and a little more current. So this is actually from today. The FBI warns of threats of civil war, dirty bombing following Trump raid. And this is just from a slew of right-wing commentators and just right-wing people in general posting memes, getting very upset, making these threats. There was apparently a threat to plant a dirty bomb at I think it was the DC headquarters following this raid. And of course, again, if you read other political commentators, I'm sure you've heard about the man, I think it was Cincinnati, who he busted into the FBI headquarters in that area with a nail gun and an AR-15 and body armor, and he attempted to break the bulletproof glass with the nail gun. And when he failed, alarms were set off, and he actually fled. He ended up fleeing, and I think there was a shootout in a cornfield, and somehow or another he ended up being gunned down by the FBI, and case closed. We got him. Now, a lot of people are saying that, he was a Fed or this was all set up. How do you even get into an FBI headquarters with, minimal security? He just walked right in. But that's near here nor there. Because of what's going on with the FBI raids, this is causing people to just, it's causing people to snap. It's causing people to do crazy things. And now they're making crazy warnings. Let's see what the FBI has to say. The FBI is warning of civil war and a dirty bomb threat against its D.C. headquarters following its raid of the former President Donald Trump in the Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. A leaked bulletin of the FBI and Department of Homeland Security said they had increased in violent threats against law enforcement, government officials, judges in the week since the agents executed the warrant at Mr. Trump's residence. It's such a concerted effort to go after a political figure and even go to the extra step of, like I said, if you watch other commentators, you've seen they've been arresting GOP officials, subpoenaing different people's subpoenaing different people's phones and records and files. And this isn't an isolated incident around Trump. This is a broad spectrum attack on just the right in general. And like I said, I try to stay very neutral. But when I see things like, raids on ex-presidents' homes, very clear political warfare, and just the weaponizing of the DOJ in order to take out your political rivals, it reminds me of more, third world countries and not, the US of A, where we're supposed to warn to talk of a place of a dirty bomb in front of the FBI headquarters and general calls for civil war and armed rebellion. Investigators are also monitoring threats against federal judges who approved the warrant to search Mr. Trump's residence. And yeah, that's another thing that I believe, and I don't know if it's on here, of course, they're not going to go into it because it's about Epstein. So let's just quick segue. Federal judge that signed the warrant on Trump's estate was actually an ex-prosecutor of the Epstein case. Now, somewhere in the midst of that, he had somewhat of a moral epiphany, I suppose, and then became a defendant for Epstein. And then after the Epstein case was closed, a few months later ago, and now he's a judge signing these crazy warrants that just it's just insane. It's all tied together, and it all just drives me insane. Speaking on CBS Face the Nation, Mr. Fitzpatrick said his and his colleagues of Mr. Trump should be more careful with their rhetoric and urged calm. Sorry. FBI Director Christopher Wray said last week they had a noticeable uptick in threats against law enforcement since the Mar-a-Lago raid. And what do you expect? You basically made him into a martyr. I'm sure they're going to attempt to pin some level of charge or something that will keep him from holding public office next year. And it's been said, multiple outlets are saying, the way to stop Trump next year isn't through prosecution, it's through this or that. And this isn't a secret, it's obvious, and now it's in our face. And a lot of people are still saying, oh, well, it's just an investigation. Come on, man. It's an investigation into the man who is the front runner for the GOP primary. Actually, I believe that's incorrect. I think I saw something this morning that said, Ron DeSantis had actually taken the lead as the predicted, and this isn't polls. This is what's known as like a stock. This is what's known as like a stock market for like politicians. He's predicted to be the GOP nominee for this year. They do mention what I was talking about. An armed man tried to breach the FBI Cincinnati field, but was killed in a vehicle chase after a household standoff with law enforcement. Individual Ricky Sheriff Jr. was at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Oh, hey, they had to tie him into that. That was one thing that I was really disappointed when I heard about that, because having an individual go on some kind of a rampage is exactly what the Democrats needed right now. It's right before the election, and they're going to be able to point and go, look, Trump supporters are dangerous, and they try to kill our FBI agents, and they don't care about social justice, and they're going to do everything they can to push this. They're going to put this guy everywhere, and we're not going to hear the end of it until November. IRS annual report shows training of heavily armored agents raiding suburban homes. So on top of the 87,000 agents that they're deciding to add this year, they're also giving more training on how to break in your door and force taxation upon you. And this is just really creepy stuff here. I know that it's been a very long-standing thing that the IRS has armed agents that can enforce tax code, but this is weird. This doesn't look like the millionaires and billionaires that they're supposed to be auditing and having all these extra agents for. This looks like they're breaking into, poor guy down the street that's barely making ends meet. He's really evading tax. Now, Jordan, this is just a simulation. No. Don't give me that. This is not to bust down Elon's door. This is not to bust down Bill Gates' door. It's to bust down my door, your door, and anyone else who makes a little bit more money than the government can't find a way to siphon off. So let's read on about this one. The IRS Criminal Investigation Special Agents can be seen in the 2021 annual report of the International Revenue Service conducting a variety of deadly force exercises. The agents are trained and shoot The agents are trained to shoot to kill and over your government and taxes. The training exercises including ability entry and use of weapons, defensive tactics, and other. And this is just like the video I talked about a few days ago where they were just, they're amassing somewhat of an army. And I know, you're going to say, oh, Jordan, come on, it's the IRS. Dude, this is not normal to be seeing everywhere. I've heard about the IRS's armed units before, and it's never been plastered this much over the news. It makes me worry. The Gateway Pundit previously reported that the IRS is looking for new agents, including armed and fit federal tax agents who are willing to use deadly force according to the job posting. Duties also include willing and able participants in arrest, executions of search warrants, and other dangerous assignments. This is not, dangerous assignments. What are y'all, who are you auditing? So look at this. This is a tweet from Ford Fisher. The IRS is hiring new special agents. Requirements include working a minimum of 50 hours per week, may include irregular hours and be on 24/7 call, including holidays and weekends, and carry a firearm and be willing to use deadly force if necessary. And here's the job posting. Give it duties. Adhere to the highest standard of conduct, especially maintaining honesty and integrity. Work a minimum of 50 hours a week, which may include irregular hours, and be on the call 24/7. Maintain a level of fitness necessary to effectively respond to life-threatening situations on the job. Carry a firearm and be willing to use deadly force. Be willing and able participants in arrest, execution. Okay, this is what I went over a minute ago. I apologize. But this is just, there are 300 openings nationwide listed at usajobs.gov, expected to be a salary of $50,000 to $89,000 per year. On Thursday, Valiant News published another expose, this one about an internal report from the IRS that allegedly showed agents participating in the assault on the suburban home of the Urban units, and that was the picture we showed up for. IRS CI special agents are among the most highly trained financial investigators in the world. They begin their training at the National Criminal Investigation Training Academy, or NCTAC. NCTAC is located at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Bushwick, Georgia. New special agents complete 6 months of training, which begins at an 11-week criminal investigator training program run by FlipTech and SipTech. Covered topics, wow, those are hard to say. Covered topics common to federal law enforcement agents, including basic criminal investigation skills, criminal law, courtroom procedures, enforcement operations, interviewing skills, and firearms training. Now, of course, it's just very by the book. This is just, again, maybe it's not much of a story, but the fact that they just added 87,000 new agents, and now we have pictures of them training these new agents already to bust into what looks like low-income housing, if you ask me. Maybe it's a training facility, but I don't like it. Keeping with the topic of things I really don't like, I know I kind of already touched on this earlier, but while I was recording, these things kind of just happened, so I kind of had to go with it. So this is new from the Hill. Trump's suspected of violating the Espionage Act according to a search warrant. So the Espionage Act is basically something that was put into effect back in World War I, which the reason for the Espionage Act was basically because we didn't have anything on the books that was set up for, we had something like, treason, which treason. So if you're a citizen of the United States and you do something against the country, we can charge you with treason. I can't say that one. Treason. But when it comes to, an outside agent or, a foreign national doing the same thing, we technically did not have a law on the books to accommodate that. So we came up with the Espionage Act, which is basically if you come into the country, steal secrets, and then sell them to a foreign country, you are now in violation of the Espionage Act, and we can prosecute you. I was reading the article and trying to talk to the camera at the same time. So, federal law enforcement suspected former President Trump of violating the Espionage Act and other laws when it sought to obtain a search warrant from his Mar-a-Lago estate, according to court records unsealed Friday. The unsealed warrant shows that investigators were authorized to seize any documents, records classified to the markings related to the transmission of national defense information and classified material. The warrant also authorizes the seizure of any evidence of the knowing alteration, destruction, or concealment of any government and or presidential records of any documents with classification marking. Investigators listed 33 items they had seized from the property, including executive order of clemency for longtime Trump ally Roger Stone, informing regarding the president of France. The receipt also included entries such as miscellaneous top secret documents, binders, and photos of a handwritten note. I believe the handwritten note is, a handwritten note to the president of France, which he shared during. So here's one thing I wanted to get into, because there's actually 3 potential violations they're attempting to levy against Trump. And like I said earlier, the Espionage Act isn't actually something that would prevent you, even if he was tried, convicted, everything, that actually would not prevent you from holding federal office. But the other one of these acts actually would, and let's get into it right here. The warrant lists 3 potential criminal violations that investigators suspected they would find evidence of in this search: concealment or removal of federal records, destruction or alteration of records in a federal investigation, and transmitting defense information. Now, the defense information transmission is basically the Espionage Act, but I believe the thing that could keep you from holding office is the destruction or alteration of records in a federal investigation. Now, this is what they tried to get Hillary for, but of course, it's Hillary Clinton. And when they did their investigation, they decided there was no criminal intent. Therefore, there was no criminal charges levied against him. Now, here's my thing about this whole situation. In my opinion, I don't think they're even going to levy actual charges against Trump. If they do, I'd be very surprised. And now that I said it, it's probably going to happen because I'm always wrong. But wow, my computer just jumped for some reason. Don't worry about that. But basically, I think the real point of this is just for political fodder. They're going to try to use this. They're going to prop up, anyone that Trump endorses, obviously a co-conspirator in this egregious act against our democracy. Ooh, I should work for CNN. That was pretty good. This is clear political warfare. They're just trying to use this. They need something to use against him. They need something to use in these upcoming midterms. You can't win on inflation. You can't win on, gas prices have gone down for the 40th consecutive day. They're still above $3. Gas prices a couple years ago were $2, and I'm still seeing $4 gas here and there. So don't sing me Joe Biden's praises on gas coming down, because that's ridiculous. Can't win on inflation. Can't win on gas prices. And you're obviously making no real strides in fixing either of those things with your Inflation Reduction Act causing more inflation. But what can you win on? Gun violence and political radicalism. And it's been shown in many polls that most of the Democrats, their top priorities or top worries, it isn't the economy, it isn't the border, and it isn't, day-to-day life. It's gun violence, and they're so insensitive, and Trump, orange man bad. The dark MAGA and the dark Brandon. It's all a big distraction to distract you from the fact that this man right here has been failing us for the past 2 years, and it's not going to change. And what can they do? Well, we can't make this guy look good, so we make Trump look as bad as possible. And that's their big move. And, another thing with them doing this is actually bringing up the fact that a lot of people think that the Espionage Act actually casts too wide of a net. And some people are even calling to repeal this. Some people, of course, you just want to do that because now Trump's being charged with it. But a lot of people are actually making pretty valid points that this act in and of itself is actually bad law. So Rand Paul calls for the repeal of the Espionage Act after the Trump FBI search. Here it is right here. The big picture. The Espionage Act was abused from the beginning to jail dissidents from World War II, Paul tweeted Saturday alongside a link with the 2019 post from the Future of Freedom Foundation explaining the history of the dissidents against the law and making the case for its repeal. It is long time to repeal this egregious affront to the First Amendment, Paul added. And I think someone else that I was listening to today said it's also kind of infringes on your 14th Amendment right, but that's neither here nor there. And that was just a little something I wanted to bring up. And I need to read the law more closely myself, but from what I can tell, yeah, it casts a very wide net, and it can be used in very broad ways that aren't really. It needs to be very specific. Just like the search warrant they used to search Mar-a-Lago, it's very broad. We can take whatever we want. We might find evidence. We might just make up whatever we feel like. And here's one more thing about the Mar-a-Lago thing. I don't know if I want to. I don't think I did. One more thing about the Mar-a-Lago thing that I saw this. The FBI seized 3 of his passports during the raid, calls search an assault on a political opponent. And like I've been saying this whole time, that's clearly what it is. Former President Trump said the FBI seized 3 of his passports during the raid on Mar-a-Lago last week, calling it unprecedented search and assault. Wow, in the raid by the FBI Mar-a-Lago, they stole 3 passports. 1 expired, along with everything else, Trump posted in his Truth Social account. This is an assault on a political opponent at a level never seen before in this country, also posted on his Truth Social account. Maybe I should get on Truth Social. Apparently the engagement's pretty good there. In which agencies classified records, including some marked top secret. Trump disputes this classification of those records, saying they have been declassified per him. And again, he has that authority to do that, and a lot of people are just kind of letting that go over their head. Sources familiar with the investigation told, I hate when they say that. Either give me anonymous source, or I hate sources near the investigation, because that could be a old homeless guy that's sitting in the back alley but where this is going on. And, it's a source near the investigation. Don't give me that. Over the weekend, the FBI also seized containing records covered by attorney-client privilege and potentially executed executive privilege during its raid. And the executive privilege basically means I'm the president. You can't use that. Fuck you. Sorry. It's unclear at this point if the records include communications between the former president and his private attorney, White House counseling during the Trump administration, or a combination of the both. Sources told Fox News that due to attorney-client privilege, Trump's team asked for the Justice Department for their position on whether they would support a third-party independent special master to review those records. Sources told Fox News that the DOJ notified Trump's team they would oppose that request. The Justice Department and FBI declined to comment, and that's pretty much, they go on for a little bit more about what's going on with this, about the investigation and their reasoning for doing the raid on Mar-a-Lago. But in my opinion, this is all just political warfare, and it's not gonna stop. It's not gonna slow down until November comes around. But anyway, I'll cut it there and stop rambling. If you're new to the channel, drop a follow, hit the subscribe button. If you think Trump is gonna be indicted on these charges, drop a comment. Or do you think the IRS is training these agents for normal means, or is it for more nefarious purposes? Either way, drop a comment, like, follow, share it with your friends. We're still really small, and it's up to you guys to help me get a little bit bigger. Anyway, keep your eyes open, your ears to the ground. Y'all stay safe out there.